It is a super wild card Friday, but before we talk any football, and there will be a lot of football throughout this show, we'll make our picks for wild card weekend. Sean Morash will unveil a very special Cinco de Stinko, ranking the worst seasons in New York Giant history. But before we get to any of that, we need to begin this show with an applause. We need to begin this show with a thank you. Because sometimes we forget about not just the power of WFAN, but the power of the voice. And yesterday, 24 hours ago, right here on this radio station, the legendary Tiki Barber very kindly, very nicely sent a message to Pete Alonso and Scott Boras. And if you missed any of it, of course, you could go to our Evan and Tiki podcast, but I'll summarize. Basically, Tiki said, hey, Pete, be careful. You know, you don't necessarily want to leave New York. And we talked about Tiki's experience and talked about other athletes' experiences. And within 16 hours of that beautiful lecture that Tiki put together, what happens? We find out that Scott Boras is shopping exclusively to the New York Mets a short-term deal because they clearly want to get a job and get this job done with the New York Mets. And you are delusional if you don't think that's because of the voice of Tiki Barber.
I'll take my platitudes. Thank you. I'll be here every day, Monday to Friday, 2 to 6:30 p.m. Give us a call at 888-808-1019. This is Tiki Barber.
And I mean this. That phone line is open all day, and you can use it to talk Giant football and wild card weekend. But, Loogie, please make sure that line is also open for any Met fan that wants to use it, whether it's right here at the top of the show, whether it's later in the show, to simply say thank you to Tiki Barber at 888-808-1019, because you've taught me a few things over the last year and a half.
Right, you're gonna make me a Met fan, Evan.
I'm working.
First, I get you Steve Cohen. Bring back Pete Alonso.
Well, you taught me don't believe in coincidences. So
Yes.
The idea that out of nowhere yesterday, you were talking about the importance of spending your career in New York, and then less than 24 hours later, there's this exclusive offer with the Mets. I don't believe in coincidences.
Well, I think it's maybe exactly what you said. At some point, Pete Alonso's got to express to Scott Boras, I'm the actual boss here. I'm the actual one in control, and this is where I would like to be. Let's get a deal done as soon as possible. That's what it feels like.
No doubt.
It doesn't feel like a Boras maneuver. You know what I mean? That just having watched some of the negotiations that Scott Boras and his clients have had over the previous, years or decade, it's not this. It's not, hey, let's just narrow this down to one team, give you a friendly engagement, so it's not 6 or 7 years, but a 3-year deal, which we know you're more likely to do with one team. That doesn't feel like Scott Boras. That feels like what Pete Alonso would actually want to happen.
That feels like it got to Pete, what you said. He listened to it. He took the advice, and he called up Scott and said, go get a deal done. So I think you've done your part as the New York sports legend. So I'm going to try in a very small, brief way to do my part. And that is, I'm going to talk to the New York Mets now. You did a great job talking to Pete. I'm going to talk to the New York Mets. I'm going to make this perfectly clear. You can't lose Pete Alonso now. If he's really willing to take a short-term deal, then there are no excuses. The excuses are gone. If you wanted to convince me, look, Evan, it'd be stupid to give him a 5-year deal. If some schmucky team wants to do it, you got to just kind of shrug your shoulders and say, we're not going to make that business decision. But on a short-term, opt-out late in 3-year deal, there is zero excuse for Pete Alonso to not be a New York Met. So now it's on you, David Stearns. It's on you, Steve Cohen, to seal the freaking deal. Go get this deal done now. Tiki's done his part, okay? He got Scott and Pete to get it out of their mind that they need a 5 or 6 year contract. That's clearly gone away. They are now open to a short-term opt-out laden deal. So, David Stearns, you have the football on the 2-yard line. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to fumble it, or are you going to run over the dopey linebacker and score a touchdown?
Go score. Make it easy.
Go score a touchdown.
Make Met fans happy.
Make Met fans happy. Now, speaking of linebackers, last night I was trapped in a room watching nothing but sports. So first of all, I want to congratulate the New York Islanders on a nice shutout victory against the Las Vegas, whatever the hell you call them. And I want to even congratulate the Rangers for teasing their fans into actually thinking they're not dead yet by beating the Devils last night.
Yes, who are in a massive slump.
But let's
points in 4 of the last 5, Evan.
Oh, stop it. But let's cut to the real chase of last night. Giant fans, aren't you lucky you didn't get caught drafting that stiff Drew Aller? Because all I saw last night, you want me to be honest? You want me to be an IFO?
Tell us.
I saw Christian Hackenberg last night. That's what I saw.
Yeah, that was a rough performance by Aller. I mean, he didn't complete a pass. I didn't realize it until I read it this morning. He didn't complete a pass to a wide receiver.
No, he didn't.
Last night, it's just like, how does that even possible in college football? So, yeah, he had a bad day. But this is exactly what Sean and I talked about when we talked about Drew Aller yesterday. He needs another year of development. Now, that development could happen in college or it could happen in the NFL backing up some team. But watching last night, I think he needs another year in college. So
no doubt.
His initial thought process, which was to not declare for the NFL draft, is probably the right one. Go with your gut here, Drew, because you didn't look good last night against a really good Notre Dame team.
Last night, things became a little bit clearer, but also a little bit more confusing for the New York Giants. So in one breath, Drew Aller's not going to be an idiot. He's not going to come out of school, and we'll reevaluate this next year. Yeah. My gut feeling, though, and I admit I'm biased towards the fact that Penn State quarterbacks, outside of Kerry Collins, no offense, Tiki, mostly suck at the NFL level. But Drew Aller, go spend another year, develop a little bit more, and this will be a discussion for next year if the Jets or Giants, both, maybe neither, are looking for a quarterback. The other thing is Deshaun Watson's going to be out for next year, so the odds are even higher of the Cleveland Browns taking a quarterback, which means that either one of two things are going to happen.
Wait. That's what you think?
Go ahead.
You don't think the Cleveland Browns are taking a quarterback?
I'm sorry. Did I if I misspoke, I apologize. Because Deshaun Watson's out for the year, they're clearly taking a quarterback.
They were probably taking one anyways, but now they're almost definitely taking one.
I want to warn you. I am so drugged up right now on a lot of different medicines. So if I misspeak, absolutely correct me and slap me across the face.
You didn't misspeak.
Oh.
But.
Then what's your problem?
Who did Kevin Stefanski have the most success with before coming to Cleveland that got him the job in Cleveland?
Baker?
Kirk Cousins.
Oh, Kirk Cousins.
They're not signing Kirk Cousins.
And Kevin Stefanski is entering next year in the hot seat with the same giant urgency to win? Don't tell me that Kirk Cousins ain't the Browns quarterback next year.
He's not. Well, he may be as a bridge to let whoever they draft sit. Now, look. The Cleveland Browns and the Tennessee Titans are very likely to take quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. The caveat to all of this is what I've predicted for a while now. Or 5 days. What I've predicted for 5 days now, which is that Shedeur Sanders is going to refuse to go to either place and force his way to the New York Giants. If that doesn't happen, and the quarterbacks are gone 1-2, which I think is what the teams are going to want to do, your Kirk Cousins idea, to me, it's a bridge thing. It's not we're going to pass on a young quarterback and sign Kirk Cousins because he's our answer for the next 3 years, or he's going to bridge us to a healthy Deshaun Watson. I think that's delusional. But I think the other thing that happened last night is you watched the dual Carter, and you probably as a Giant fan said, well, hold on a second. Maybe it's not just immediately Travis Hunter.
Right.
Maybe I got to think about this demon who had 12 sacks last year or this year and could be my next great defensive player in a franchise that is littered with big-time pass rush.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the 49ers when they started building. You think about the Rams when they were furiously through free agency trying to win a championship. It started with edge rushers. Right? Yes. They were bringing in edge rusher after edge rusher after edge rusher. And I know the Giants have two now with Brian Burns coming in free agency last year, or actually a trade last year, and then Kayvon Thibodeau. But you can't have enough of them. Go back to the 2007 Giants, the Super Bowl Giants. They had like four of them on that team. And being able to rotate and have quality and effective pass rushing all the time, not just, 2 or 3 downs in a row is actually very beneficial. So Abdul Carter may be the guy. In fact, if you look at some of the draft boards, Abdul Carter is number one on the list, not Travis Henry. I mean, they've switched
Hunter,
back.
yeah.
Travis Hunter. They switch back and forth on those boards depending on which one you look at. But to me, it's still Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter can help you on both sides of the football.
Is that the reason, though?
Is that like the reason? I mean, it's just. I think the unknown is appealing to me when I think about Travis Hunter, and I know he can be a great corner. I didn't even realize, because I didn't watch a lot of Colorado football, how amazing of a wide receiver he was. 1,400 yards he had this past season. And so he's going to at least have some impact, even if it's not a full 60 plays on offense every game. He's going to have some packages that are going to be super beneficial to whatever team he's on. So to me, Travis Hunter gives you that I don't know, that it's an unknown that is only positive. That makes sense.
What I was daydreaming about last night, just to show you I'm an IFO, because I'm not a Giant fan, but as I was watching this game, and it was a very entertaining game, and by the way, congratulations to all the Irish fans out there, now going to play for the national championship. We'll see what happens tonight with the Buckeyes against Texas. But as I'm watching this game, I admit, my brain is more focused on the impact it'll have on the Giants and Jets.
Right.
And all I could think about in watching Abdul Carter was, the Giants need an identity. And I thought coming into this season, the reason I was wrong about them, I thought they'd win 7 or 8 games, is because I thought their identity was going to be a pass rush. And it didn't really happen this season.
Yeah.
And I think
it got better at the end, but you're right.
It did. And I think to myself, look, as good as Travis Hunter can be in theory, especially helping you in 2 ways, boy, if you bring Abdul in to go along with what you already have with Brian Burns and what you hope continues to develop, even though it kind of didn't as much this year due to injury, in Kayvon Thibodeau, and how good Dexter Lawrence is, like, my brain tells me that's the identity of the next really good Giant team. And that's why, as I'm watching last night, I'm realizing Drew Aller's a stiff. I'm watching Christian Hackenberg. I kind of lean towards Abdul Carter because I can see the future that this would be your identity moving forward if you're the New York Giants.
Oh, and especially, just think of the parallel to the Kyle Shanahan situation out in San Francisco. He's the offensive-minded coach, right? He's taken, care of that side of the ball. And so what you do is you draft the studs on the other side of the ball. And so as long as you have, a capable scheme, you're kind of covering all your bases because you can create success offensively as long as you have good quarterback play. But then you bring in guys who are going to be a menace to opposing quarterbacks. It makes it a win-win situation if everything goes the way you planned it to go.
Now, last night, Sean was all about Drew Aller. You've been talking about him for weeks and weeks. Like, that's been your boy. As you watched last night's game, did you come to the, all right, screw this, I'm getting off the Drew Aller bandwagon? Like, what was your thought watching this last night?
My thought was, man, there's a world we live in where both Abdul Carter and Drew Aller are New York Giants after the next 2 years. Because Drew should absolutely come back. And I'll check back in on you, buddy, to see how you did. Evan, overall, look, it would have been better for the Giants in their thirst for a quarterback to have another quarterback catapult himself to the top of the draft. It didn't happen. It was always caveated on whether Drew Aller could rise to the occasion. He didn't last night. But, man, I actually saw Mina Kimes tweet this, and, I hate to, whatever. Like, I thought it was actually a good tweet. Abdul Carter passes the alien test. An alien can come from Earth. Tiki, you don't get any ideas. Look at the field and go, that is undoubtedly the best player on the field.
Right.
And when you think about Giant football and what we all grin our teeth at is always about pass rush, pass rush, pass rush. What the Giants cannot do anymore in drafts is simply plug holes for needs. Yes, they have 2 what I consider very good pass rushers. I'm adding to it because the best days of Giants football, the late 80s and then those mid-2000 runs, were all predicated on it. And I am not letting Abdul Carter at 3 get out of my sights when he's that freakish a player. Now, will I be disappointed if they take Travis Hunter, Tiki? No. But if I am kind of breaking a tie here, I got to be honest, on a football field, when Travis Hunter has logged as many snaps as he had both ways, there is a little bit of that hesitation going, is this a guy that's going to wear down in his career a lot earlier than I think, where I know I'm getting an undoubt, like Myles Garrett type pass rusher? I'm leaning Abdul Carter now.
Interesting. That's interesting.
So, in this world,
because that comes out of nowhere. I don't think anybody was talking about the Giants taking an edge rusher. a week ago.
No, and look, and he was always talked about in the top 5, top 10. But the more you think about it and you watch him on that stage, come on, how do you not drool?
Well,
and fall in love?
Look, you're right. There is something about being a gamer. There is something about having whatever the opportunity is, and everybody's watching. It is a massive stage, and there are huge stakes on the line, and you play that way. That like you can't find that. You can't replicate that anywhere. You're not going to get that in practice. You're not going to get that in a preseason game. You only see it when the opportunity presents itself, and he acquitted himself very well last night.
I think it comes down to an age-old or really decade-long football question, and it's a very simple one. When you look at the different positions in the NFL, what do you value the most? And I think we'd all agree quarterback is number one, so we kind of put that to the side.
Well, I mean, it's simple. It's like quarterback, protecting quarterback, getting after quarterback.
Okay, well, so that's where I stop. So we got quarterback number one, left tackle number two. Completely agree with you.
Right.
Would you rather have, and this is where I'm more mixed, an edge pass rusher that can get to the quarterback or a lockdown corner like Darrelle Revis was in his prime, where you can take away the number one weapon of your opponent?
So it's hard to do the lockdown corner thing because teams aren't playing as much man as they used to, where it was like, all right, just man up across the board. You get the best guy, and everybody else will figure it out. If you try to do that, I think Robert Saleh mentioned this a little bit 2 years ago. We asked him about why you don't do that with Sauce. Why don't you lock Sauce into the best wide receiver? And he said, because if we do that with Sauce, then we have to do it with others as well. And it just makes it really complicated, especially if you don't have high quality players all over the secondary. And so they just leave him on one side and let him basically try to lock down a side as opposed to lock down a player. Look. Which one would I rather have? I think, honestly, I want the edge rusher. I think the edge rusher, it can affect the play more consistently than a lockdown corner who you can just go away from. You know what I mean? So, to me, it's the edge rusher.
And that answers your question, man, because I do agree with Sean about this, where the Giants are. You can't be thinking about need. You got to be thinking about who is the best player on the field.
Yeah, but you just traded 2 draft picks and paid Brian Burns a lot of money. You had an awful season, and you're going to, at number 3, take another pass rusher?
Yeah, but
why did they bring in Brian Burns?
Well, I think this is what Evan's saying. It's a philosophy. It's not necessarily the individuals that you're talking about. It's what's our identity going to be. So if you look at the Giants right now and ask them, what is their identity? Like, what's the Giants' identity?
They don't have one.
Sucking.
Right.
Well,
other than that, but honestly,
they don't have one.
If there was something that you could point at and say, this is what the Giants are really good at, what would it be?
I would
other
say
than throwing the ball to Malik Neighbors?
Correct. Explosive passing attack with Malik if they could get a guy to get him the football.
But that wasn't really consistent. You saw that in like 4 games. And so they need an identity. And so what are you going to put it on? Is it going to be running the football? If you ask the Philadelphia Eagles, what's their identity? They're going to say, we're going to maul you at the line of scrimmage, and Saquon's going to run the ball. Our quarterback's going to run the ball. If we get 3rd or 4th and short, you cannot stop us. So their identity is controlling the offensive trenches. The Giants don't have one.
But if they drafted Abdul Carter, they would have one very quickly, and I wouldn't look at.
You hope they would.
Right, in theory they would, because Kayvon Thibodeau needs to be healthy and needs to continue to develop. Sure,
he also, I think Kayvon Thibodeau also needs to be healthy and develop.
Yeah, both of them do. Yeah.
What did I just say? Isn't that what I just said?
You said Thibodeau again.
You got nicks on the brain.
You know whose fault that is? That's Tom Thibodeau's fault.
That is Tom Thibodeau's fault.
And it's basketball season. Look, I think that last night was a lot of fun. Because last night wasn't just fun for those who bet. It wasn't just fun for those who are Irish. It was fun for the Giant fans' minds to circle on all the possibilities. And I warn you today, on this 4.5-hour get-together that we have, there will be many things discussed. Whether it's Tiki Barber saving the New York Mets and causing Pete Alonso and Scott Boras to come back to the Mets and say, we'll take a short-term deal. Whether it's dreaming about what the Giants should do at 3. Whether it's an in-depth look at Aaron Glenn. Whether it's previewing Wild Card Weekend. I warn you, buckle up. You're in for a 4.5-hour ride today. And we'll talk to you throughout the day at 888-808-1019. When we come back, your phone calls plus, is Joe Shane a miserable human being?